welcome to Gravitas Plus. My name is Priyanka Sharma and this week's top headline. China has once again provoked a military confrontation with India. It happened in Tawang on the 9th of December. Most of you already know the story by now. I'm sure the development has triggered a question. Why India? Why does China repeatedly try to create new facts on the ground with India? In 2017, there was Doklam. In 2020, Galwan. And now, as we wrap up 2022, China has shifted the arena to Tawang. So why India? Is it because of the long LAC or the line of actual control? Or is it because the LAC is undefined? Actually, it's neither. The problem here is neither the length or the nature of the LAC. The problem here is China. The Dragon shares borders with 14 countries and it has disputes with almost all of them. And as if that's not enough, China has also had disputes with countries which do not share a land border with the Dragon. South Korea, for example. Look at the map of China. The country's official size is nearly 9.6 million square kilometers. It is the second largest country in the world. But China is not satisfied. It wants more land, more water, more influence. The Dragon wants to spread its wings as much as possible. And in this process, China has become a nuisance for every country in the region. Let's start with China's maritime disputes. The most prominent one is with Taiwan. China not just wants pieces of land claimed by Taiwan, but it claims all of Taiwan. History is the basis of China's claim. Beijing says Taiwan was originally a Chinese province. True. But Taiwan was never a part of modern Chinese state. So what gives? And what justifies China's war games near the island country? Then there is the Philippines. China has not spared the island nation either. It is sparring with Manila over the Scarborough Reef and the Spratly Islands. This is where they are on the map, the South China Sea. In fact, China claims nearly all of this water body. You heard that right, all of it. Beijing time and again points to this 9-dash line. It first appeared on Chinese maps back in 1953, and this is exactly where Beijing's dispute with Vietnam, Brunei and Malaysia stems from. These countries share the South China Sea, but China wants the sea all to itself. Beijing has developed military bases on islands, created artificial islands, also deployed maritime militia around some islands of the South China Sea. This militia has been tasked with troubling neighboring countries. In 2020, China's maritime militia began shadowing a Malaysian ship. The ship was conducting exploration activities off the Malaysian coast. Kuala Lumpur objected to China's conduct. Beijing dismissed this objection. It is not just the South China Sea which Beijing wants. It is also staking claim on a rock in the Yellow Sea, a rock that's submerged. It is called the Socotra Rock, or Iodo, or Suyan Islets. This rock is some 4.6 meters below sea level, but China wants it. South Korea says the rock falls within its exclusive economic zone. The international law says a submerged rock outside a country's territorial sea cannot be claimed by any country. But who will explain that to China? And in what language? Beijing time and again sends fishing vessels to this part of the Yellow Sea. This one time in 2016, China sent 40 fishing vessels. South Korea sent 2 Coast Guard speedboats to send the Chinese vessel away. Guess what? What happened next? One of the fishing ships rammed one of the South Korean Coast Guard boats. Then another fishing ship hit the boat in an additional collision. The South Korean Coast Guard boat sank and the crew on board had to be rescued. This is exactly what China is doing in the waters of the Yellow Sea. Then in 2011, a South Korean Coast Guard was stabbed by a Chinese fisherman following a confrontation in the Yellow Sea. The Coast Guard died. Let's now turn our attention to Japan, another country that China has never failed to trouble. Why? Because China wants the Senkaku Islands. They are located in the East China Sea. No one stays here. Japan calls these islands Senkaku. China's named them Diaoyu. In 2020, Japan passed a bill renaming Senkaku. The Chinese Foreign Ministry then issued a statement. It called the bill a serious provocation to China's territorial sovereignty, adding that the Diaoyu Islands belong to China. China is also fighting Indonesia. The fight is over the Natuna Islands. China has been accused of using intimidating island patrol tactics, also accused of fishing illegally in the waters claimed by Indonesia. China also claims parts of Vietnam, especially the Paracel Islands. In 2020, Chinese army sank a Vietnamese fishing vessel near these islands, and the tactic was the same. A Chinese vessel went and rammed the Vietnamese boat. There were 8 fishermen on board. Now you get why I say China is a nuisance, not just for India, but all its neighbors. China has an unresolved conflict with North Korea and the Sea of Japan. China has unsettled border issues with Bhutan. Doklam is just one such example. China has encroached upon around 36 hectares of Nepalese land. Nepal discovered this back in 2019 following a report by the country's survey department. China even had a border dispute with Russia. The two countries share a 4,200-kilometer-long border. There were border clashes in 1969, and then in 2005, Russia had to cede Bear Island to China. What about India? China's dispute with India is founded on its belief in an alternate reality. Take, for example, Beijing's claim that Arunachal Pradesh is actually a part of southern Tibet. This is where Arunachal is located on the map. It is an integral part of India. The world recognizes this. But the dragon likes to wear a blindfold. All in all, China's last dispute with India goes back to 1914, the time when India was a British colony. Representatives from India and Tibet met in Shimla. They agreed on a de facto border in the east, this one. It's called the McMahon Line, after the chief British negotiator, Sir Henry McMahon. But China did not recognize this line. In 1962, Chinese troops crossed this line. There was a 4-week war. China occupied some 43,000 square kilometers of Indian land, what we know as Aksai Chin. Till date, China has refused to sit down with India to define an official border. It likes to keep the line of actual control undefined, so it can salami slice whenever it likes and create new facts on ground. Take, for instance, what happened in 2020. China mobilized troops and tanks in some areas on the LAC in Ladakh. China began construction activity in some areas claimed by India. On the 15th of June in 2020, the two sides clashed in Galwan. Some 300 PLA troops attacked Indian soldiers with clubs wrapped in barbed wire and nails. 20 Indian soldiers died. China said its troops sustained minor injuries. Estimates say the number could be anything between 38 and 45.